A tragic accident changed the course of his life forever. For most, it would have begun a life of discontent and wallowing around in self-misery. For Jonathan Nadeau, it kickstarted a new chapter of inspiration and appreciation. Even though he lost his sight permanently, he gained a passion to put creativity first in all areas of his life. And now, he wants to encourage you to do the same. There are times when you'll be faced with a choice. Be crushed by the weight of the situation, or use the fresh start to rebound bigger, better, and more inspired than ever before. This is Tornado, stories of those who refuse to choose defeat and instead chose to embrace the storm. Here's your host, Jonathan Nadeau.
Greetings and salutations. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jonathan Nadeau. I'm your host as always, and you are listening to Embrace Your Storm. Thank you for joining us. Today I have on Dion. He's from a band called Palumbo, and they've released a new album, Tales from the Big Smoke. So Dion, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. Welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. So Dion, the first question I like to ask everyone before we get too far into the interview is, what brought you to music? Like, how did music become your creative outlet? How did you discover music?
Well, my mother's a professional musician, orchestral, and my stepfather's, it's music's always been there. And I guess, grew up listening to the Beatles and the Stones and all that good stuff from the 60s and 70s. And
that's cool.
As a kid, I wanted to be an Australian rules football player. And then I guess picked up guitar. I played piano as a kid and then picked up guitar when I was 13, and I guess never looked back from there.
So was piano the first instrument you played then?
Yeah, I think as a teacher, you'd say with kids it's good because the piano it puts all the notes in front of you.
I've told all my kids, I'm like, you can play whatever instrument you want. I want you to play instruments, but you have to play piano first.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, it all comes from there.
Seriously, because I told them like, if you can master piano, not even like master it, but if you could wrap your head around the piano, you're going to be able to play any other instrument.
Yeah, that's right.
It's really all downhill from there.
Well, most arrangers, they arrange, like when I did my music degree, when I did arranging, it's much better to arrange like for horns or strings on a piano.
Totally. Like you said, it's just because all the notes are so accessible, they're all just right there, and no other instrument is like that in a sense. Like guitar, the tuning is all crazy compared to a piano.
Yeah. You can't voice like semitone like on a guitar.
Exactly.
Sort of thing. Unless you do that weird awkward stretch that I don't like doing,
Exactly.
Those guys that do their weird chords and they span their.
I know.
Anyway,
I've watched some YouTube videos where guys are like, "Yeah, now take your hand and do this and do that," and I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I can't do that."
It's like guitar contortionists.
Yeah. Exactly. So, if your mom did orchestral stuff, did you grow up with like any other kind of instruments in the house, like clarinets, oboes, or whatever? Like, did you have any kind of things like that? Did you mess around with, or
not so much wind? I don't think, but I mean, one story she tell, like I can't really remember, but she was doing an orchestral concert, and like I jumped inside the double bass case while the concert was going on. Apparently, one of those.
That's funny.
Yeah, so it was like definitely attracted and felt comfortable to music, and also I guess being a performer, I've always liked to perform as well, and I think I will continue to do that for the rest of my life, even when I'm really old.
I hear you. So did you take like proper piano lessons and whatnot growing up? Like, did you play piano for years or anything, or did you just kind of poke around on it and mess with it or whatever?
Oh no, mum got this hotshot jazz guy, Russell Holmes his name was. I remember his name. He was really good, and he taught me some boogie woogie kind of.
No kidding.
Scott Joplin style bit of stuff and some blues.
That's cool.
And I think I might have done the Beethoven. What's the Beethoven?
Oh, like for Elise.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm because I'm studying a master's at the moment in, I don't know, it's in music, it's music therapy. I'm they're making us do piano again, which is good because I have to get my chops up.
I hear you. So then you said you jumped to guitar at like 13 or whatever. What brought you to guitar? Like, what was the band you heard and you're like, oh my God, I need to play guitar? Was it like AC/DC or something? Being in Australia,
it's funny, like you can't see, but I'm wearing my AC/DC hat right now.
That's funny.
And I think the thing that blew me away in the 90s was hearing Nevermind by Nirvana.
Okay.
Yeah, that just I remember putting that on. Some of the older guys had a car and he had a good stereo and he chucked on this new album and it was just like, whoa, what the hell is that? You know?
I hear you.
I think Black Sabbath was there and
no kidding.
Yeah. AC/DC, of course. I remember when I first saw Thunderstruck on the television, Brian Johnson screeching away. I was only a young kid. I was watching my dad. I was pissing myself laughing. It's hilarious, that video, you know.
It is.
Yeah. Rock and roll is hilarious.
And especially with I think Money Talks with that Angus Young going nuts on that video. You know, like him dancing around and being on the floor and, you know, and everything. Like he was a madman.
Oh, he's a nutter. He's great. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And plays the shit out of that SG. I mean, there's
totally.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess Black Sabbath, another thing that sort of blew us away. Our group of friends, we all went back to the Beatles and the Stones. So we all started going back to that stuff, you know, in the 90s. So it was kind of like Nirvana, Appetite for Destruction.
Oh, Metallica, man, there you go. It's a great album.
Metallica Black.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, that's just off the top. Pearl Jam 10 came out.
Totally. Absolutely.
And then Soundgarden, Super Unknown, and A Bad Motorfinger.
Oh, yeah.
So we were down with that stuff, and I loved it. I still love that stuff now, you know. But
I hear you.
But from there, it's like the Doors and the Hendrix and you know, all the good old stuff. I mean, that era of music was pretty special, like the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Yeah. I mean, it's never going to happen again, really, is it?
No. It was especially like 68, 69, 70. Like that was a real special time. Like,
absolutely.
You know, yeah, for sure. Like, so when you grabbed the guitar, like, what was your first guitar? Was it some, you know, piece of garbage guitar that you just loved, or like, you know, what was your first guitar?
Am I allowed to swear because I'm Australian?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think it was some piece of shit, but my mum had a family friend. He was a guitar maker. So he custom made me this guitar.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, that was great. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so that did me for a while, and I sort of grew out, and then I got I got a Gibson Les Paul, a studio,
nice,
which I still have to this day.
The studios? Those are lighter than the standards, right?
Nah, man, this thing's like weighs a ton.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm thinking of the Studio Light, they were called, I think. Yeah.
No, it should be called Studio Heavy.
Yeah, I know. My friend has a custom shop Les Paul. That thing's got to weigh 25 pounds. Like, it is so freaking. It's so heavy.
Yeah, like 3-hour gigs are. You watch Jimmy Page, man. Like, even when he was like, you know, getting on, he was still wielding that Les Paul, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you're like leaning over one way, and when you take the guitar off after the show, you know, you're like,
yeah, you got like neck trouble. You got to go see the chiropractor after.
Seriously.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah.
So
go on.
Has guitar been like your main instrument then? Have you messed around with like bass and drums and stuff like that, or did you stick with guitar?
Well, mainly guitar, obviously singing.
Yeah.
But bass came up for me because my parents are bass players, so
Oh,
it's
nice.
always kind of in there. And I ended up playing bass in a few bands in London as a
That's
session.
cool.
Yeah, so that I really love to play bass, So and I played drums. Well, in Liverpool, when I lived in Liverpool, England, I ended up I sent a demo of covers because I wanted to make some money in a place called Crosby, north of Liverpool.
Mm.
And the dude who ran the pub said, "Hey, God, I love your demo. Do you play drums?" And I said, "A little bit." So he said, "We need a drummer." So in the end, the band was doing quite well. They ended up playing on the radio and
That's cool.
on the BBC with this band. It was like called the Diesel Fitters, and it was like kind of folky, Irishy folk with a Liverpool twang, and it was really interesting stuff. And they looked like they were going somewhere too. And we ended up playing in the Albert Dock, the famous Liverpool Albert Dock, on a
That's
boat.
cool.
So this is me waking up, and I think, so that was that went on. So I played drum. If I had a gig on drums and I needed to practice, I could be a good drummer, I think. But
That's cool.
I never I don't have the sort of, like, if someone said, we've got this gig on drums, I'd do it, and then I'd practice and I could nail it. But I don't generally practice
Like,
drums,
yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So now with your band Palumbo, like, how long have you had this together?
Oh, well, I've had that because I guess, well, actually, when I was in Australia, I had a band called Wizard, and that did pretty well.
What kind of style of music were you guys in Australia?
Well, that was like heavy rock.
Okay.
Heavy rock, but like quite progressive, influenced by Tool, A Perfect Circle.
That's cool. But
then Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and
that's an interesting twist.
Yeah, and the Doors and all. So we would have mashed it up. But I got to tell you this: like, this is pretty spun out. The guitarist of that band, his father played piano for Elvis Presley.
Come on.
Yeah, and his
cool.
father, his father's name Larry Bahobarak, and he was like, what a dude. And he was Neil Diamond's MD, and like, top of the tree, man. And his mother sang with bloody Burt Bacharach. And
oh my goodness.
His mother's name is Andra Willis, and she was famous as well. So I had this geezer in my band, and then the drummer of that band, his godmother was Joni Mitchell. I'm thinking, what?
Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness!
No, I'm not kidding you, man. Like,
you have this like band of all stars or
up.
whatever.
Well, it was, and I mean, we all thought we were going to be huge, but it's probably a good thing we didn't. We were. I think there was a bit too much craziness going on, and I think even though the industry at the time knew, because of course, they knew who the guitar player was, and but I think we're just a bit too. I think if we had sort of got a break and lived, done the rock and roll thing, I don't think I'd be talking to you right now.
I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Young and just wild. So I think it was probably a dodged a
bullet there. Yeah.
Dodged a few. But that's the dream. That's why you kind of get into that.
I hear you.
You think, you do it, and I still have that. Not to be. I don't think I'd want to be a superstar. Definitely not. Imagine that. It's just, I don't know. Nah. Just people sort of, like, even the Stones. You look at the Stones; they're in their 80s, looking like shit, and you've got paparazzi take pictures of you.
Right, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
But I think, like, I think my sort of life mission with my original music, and it's not the only mission these days, but I just want people to hear it all over the world.
I hear what you're saying. Like, I mean, as a creator, kind of at the end of the day, that's kind of what we want, right? Just people to listen, or whatever it is that we're making, watch, enjoy, listen to the stuff that we make, and connect with each other that way.
That's true, and you want notoriety would be good. I mean, I don't know. I kind of play myself down a bit. People say I've done better than what I talk it up. I guess you have these achievements, but you don't sort of see, I don't know. You always, for me, I always see someone else doing better.
I hear what you're saying. I'm the same way. Like we're definitely like our own worst critics in that, like we're harder on ourselves than we are on like other people.
Yeah, it's true. Like it's true. So all these good stuff happens, and I guess you tend to focus on the shit that didn't happen.
Exactly. Or if you like look at someone else and you're like, oh man, why that's cool that happened for them, or oh, why'd that happen for them? And then someone can point out to you, oh yeah, but you had this happen for you, and you're like, nah, yeah.
Oh yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? You're kind of like, yeah, like you always kind of down, like you were saying, you kind of maybe you downplay it a bit, but I totally get what you're saying. Like, so then you had I think it was called the Wizards, right? You said the band the Wizards. So
yeah, it was called Wizard. Yeah,
Wizard. So Palumbo came out of that at some point then.
Well, when I left to go to England. So I had a band name was Them Bones because I really like Alice in Chains.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
So yeah, so I took that name for a bit. And then I just I think soon after that, I just sort of thought, well, I'll just call myself Palumbo. It's my last name. And, and then when I was in London, I had a nine-piece funk band called Palumbo and the Funk.
That's cool.
That came out of my uni degree. So the drummer at the time, he said, well, because I've always been a rocker, but he said well, I want to be, if I'm in the band, I want 3 horns. And I said, oh, shit, is that? No, I was doing arranging. So I thought, all right. So I'll arrange for that. So that actually did very well in London. We were headlining festivals and big venues.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah. And, I was paying a lot of the time to pay the band because you got to pay the band.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so sometimes it was just like, I don't even think I don't want to check my bank account about what I spent on that gig, but just don't look. But, and then eventually the venues were paying and the promoters were paying. So and that went well for a while. But I think, Jonathan, as like if you don't spend money on art, it doesn't happen.
I hear you.
And and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I if I didn't do this creative project, I'd probably have a bit more money in the bank. But what else am I going to spend my money on?
I hear you. I hear what you're saying. There could be far worse things you're spending your money on.
Well, absolutely. Like I'm still, man. I actually talking about trying to be positive. Like. I've had a really good run and I've had an amazing career so far, just playing all over the world, playing with I ended up playing guitar for a famous Bangladesh singer
called
cool. Shapla Salik, and the percussionist played Jethro Tull.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Man.
And she's a big star. Like she's working with this guy named Nitin Sawhney, who's a big BBC producer and arranger, and they're doing tour, and actually they're coming out here, so I'll get to see her. But she took me to DC, and also Dallas, Texas, of all places. So
no kidding. So what was that was it more like Indian style music then?
Well, it's from that region, so it's Bangladesh. They're Muslim rather than Hindu.
Yeah,
the raga and the rhythm is from that region. Is similar.
That's cool. I was just talking to my son the other day. We were talking about see, he was listening to something. He's like, I don't even know what that instrument is. I was like, oh, that's a sitar. I was like, those are pretty cool. I was like, honestly, like the Asian countries use some really interesting scales that like you normally wouldn't hear. So
yeah, absolutely.
So that's pretty cool that you're jamming in that band.
Well, because so she would do these. They're called Lalon songs. Lalon was a prophet from Bangladesh. So I don't know what the hell she's singing, but so I would, because of my knowledge of jazz and harmony and sort of Western, I just prog up. So because they're playing a mode, I just throw different chords that would work over it, and so we'd get together and she would tell me what she wanted, and I'd throw these and she'd say yes or no, and then and then the percussionist was just incredible. This guy, you know.
Oh, I believe it.
Oh, he was just all like incredible. We played the TEDx a few times. One of the
That's cool.
Westminster Houses of Parliament was one of them, and we did. Yeah, she was all. It was all great stuff. It was like, and of course, you know, a lot of my tutors that I went to uni with, you know, the bass player that worked with that band we used to work with my tutor, who was a big MD, you know. So
Man,
so it was good for my cred as well.
totally. So what are you playing for guitar right now? What were you rocking on with when you're playing that Bengali Dash music?
I was playing a Martin, basically. Just
Oh, no kidding.
Beating the shit out of it, basically. Yeah.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah, but yeah, and it didn't kind of. We'd put the electric on that vibe a couple of times. She'd have a double bass, like full band would be double bass, a drummer, but the main star of the show is the percussionist.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
playing djembe and tabla and all other stuff, and then it'd be me on guitar. She sings and plays harmonium. Amazing.
That's cool. That's cool.
And I think that was it. And then and a sax, always a saxophone. And we tried it with electric guitar. Didn't work like an acoustic did.
Yeah. What do you use for a guitar amp? What do you have for a guitar amp?
At the moment, I've got a sort of semi-custom made classic 30 by Peavey.
No kidding,
like
that's cool.
A tweed thing, yeah. So, but I also I daisy chain it with an orange 30-watt.
Oh,
brush.
nice.
So I stack the orange fits on top, and I just like that orange sound on top of the Peavey. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I just dig that. I had that rolling when I was in London. I had a Laney 50-watt piece of crap, but it is but that orange on top of it just gives this beautiful sound. So
that's cool. I've never actually played through an orange amp.
Oh, they're great, you know. Yeah, if you get a chance, crank it up.
Yeah, I definitely got to give those a whirl at some point. Yeah, because the Orange Crush, that's kind of like the heavier model, right?
Yeah, I mean it's
like the more kind of rockin' model that they have.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think better if you get like the bigger versions, but I just bought this amp. Someone was selling it for quite cheap one time in Manchester, and I took it off, and I've had it for at least 10 years.
Oh, no kidding.
Probably 15 years.
No kidding. That's cool.
And just when I get gear, I just stick with it. But I think because I only use I don't use much of the gain channels on the amps. I like a nice clean sound, and then the rest comes from my pedals.
Oh, okay. So you have a whole pedal board used too then?
Yeah, always too many pedals, but you know.
What are some of your go-to pedals that you use?
I've got a Fat Cat distortion.
Oh, I have one of those.
Aren't they great? Huh?
That pedal's pretty amazing. I love the 2-pedal approach that it has, where you can like double up on it and stuff.
Yeah,
it's so crazy.
Well, the other one I've got is the now. It's the one that Green Day, Billy Joe uses in Green Day. It's that's what they sold it to me as. So those two together sound good.
Yeah.
I've got a micro pog, because that was Jack White inspired, because when he does them 2-octave high lead things.
Yeah.
But the 2-octave down sounds ace as well. So
that's cool.
But I think when you're using the octave like that, it always works with distortion. But I also have 2 compressor pedals. I have a Marshall compressor and a Boss compressor.
Okay.
And I like it gives it a dirty sound, and so I set the Boss sort of lower level, and use that a lot to sort of like a nice clean but a little bit dirty clean sound.
Okay.
And I use the other one as a boost, and in a different parts of the chain as well. So
that's cool.
And I use I like a vibe. What do you call it? The vibe, and there's a tremolo, and there's a delay.
Okay, that's cool.
And the other one, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, is that in the last part of the last part of your chain? Do you put those at the end?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Put those modulators there, and but the other one I got was the Hendrix. What was that thing?
Oh, is
Um,
it called the Purple Haze or something like that?
it's Octavio.
Oh, yeah. His octave pedal thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
and it was weird. I was like, "What is this? I'm going to get rid of this." But you again, you've just got to. I persisted with it, and when you play lead, it's just really cool. It's got a really nice tonality. It's got this kind of half wah sort of, but it's I don't know. It's hard to explain, but
That's cool.
it's cool. Yeah,
That's cool. So then like Tales from the Big Smoke, right? That's the name of the album.
that's right.
Yeah. So when did you start recording that?
I think it's about 2000, just before the pandemic. So it was that 2000
Like
hit in
19
London.
or 2020 or
19.
whatever.
Yeah, I was in
Yeah.
19. We late 19, I think, just
Yeah.
before the pandemic started out. Yeah. So yeah, we this drummer from Malta, young guy, Pete Gallia, great drummer, and he just came out of like, you know, one of the music unis, and the one in shit, now I have to remember. I can't. Um oh shit, I can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, but he's a jazz guy, but he played with such a nice feel, and so I just went in with him and I plugged in the control room, and he basically nailed 16 tracks in 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah,
That sounds like a man on a mission.
absolutely. Actually, it was me that was on the mission.
Dude, you need to get these tracks down.
Yeah, that'll do. That'll fix that up in post production. Yeah. Which we did a lot of the times. But I mean, he did great. We got it. Once you get in the zone, you know that yourself.
Exactly. Once you're in that groove, there's no stopping you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you already have these songs like written out before you went into the studio, or did you kind of finish a lot of them in the studio?
Nah, they were all written before.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I dug up a few from long ago and rearranged a Wizard track, or one of the Wizard tracks, which is
okay.
Coming off the next. That's like a sort of Rage Against the Machine riff in there, and
that's cool.
It's a bit of starts in 7, goes to 6, then the chorus is in 4. It's pretty clever stuff, and that will be coming out later. But it was called Buildings in the Sky, and rearranged that.
That's cool.
So that's really interesting. And but the premise of the Tales from the Big Smoke is it's more sort of not so heavy. It's rock, but it's contemporary. It's a little bit more melodic, not so melodic, because I like to be melodic with everything, but it's not as hard hitting.
Yeah. So this was a bit of a departure for you on this album, a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. Because the one before I did was with the funk rock thing, and you know, I mean, I think I always play. I like my heavy riffs, you know.
Yeah, I hear you.
But you know, I'm not so angry anymore, I guess, as you get a bit older.
You know, it's funny. It's funny because I call myself a recovering heavy metal guitarist, because I grew up playing heavy metal and listened to all kinds of death metal and stuff, and so like I just started playing kind of acoustic guitar like a few years ago, and and I would do some open mic nights and stuff, and that's how I introduced myself. I'm like, you know, I'm like, be gentle. I'm a recovering heavy metal guitarist. So here's Plush awesome. By Stone Temple Pilots.
excellent stuff, man. That's the way.
You know.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
But I get that. I get what you're saying, where you're like, you know, I'm not that pissed off guy anymore. It's like, yeah, I still play metal and stuff, but it's like it's not like it used to be. You know what I'm saying? When you're 18 and pissed off at the world or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and screaming at the world.
Exactly. It's a little bit different when you get older. So
yeah, it's true. I mean, when I think about the tracks, like one of them's the Sweetie song. That's about my soon-to-be wife. We're getting married in November.
Awesome! Congratulations.
Thank you. And she's a techno bunny from Berlin. So
that's funny. That's
Yeah.
huge over in Germany, like EDM and stuff like that. Like
Techno's.
kind of, yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, we spent 8 months in Berlin before we came back to Australia, and love Berlin. It's such a cool place, and
That's cool.
she's from the east, which is Prenzlauer. It's a very nice place now. It used to be very poor, but it's gentrification. But
Yeah.
sometimes I think gentrification is good.
I hear you.
If it's done well.
Yeah.
And it's still got this culture, and it's really edgy, and it's just really cool place to be, and everyone wants to be there. So, like, I mean, the problem with Berlin for me is it's a bit too much parties going on, and I sort of need to stay away from that these days.
I hear you.
You just can't be doing it all the time. It's like where we're in the Blue Mountains, we're just a bit, we're not near any clubs, they're not pubs. You're just sort of drinking tea or something,
Right. I hear what you're saying.
Drinking a whiskey or beer at the local pub around the corner on a Tuesday night. But so that song, Sweetie Song, that was the first single I released from London in 2021 off this album, and did my own video. I make my own music videos.
That's cool.
Yeah, I just do them on my phones. You can do them on phones.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I've got that one was shot on her iPhone 12 Pro, but I've got a Samsung S22 Ultra, and our last video for This House, which is the third single I released for the album, that was done on that. It just sounds great. It looks great. And it just needed, so basically I shoot this footage like a background. I'm either in it on that footage, or I just get in front of a green screen. So the last video, we went up to Cairns, and there's crocodiles. So I took background of these crocodiles in there, and there's in the video, I'm standing on top of the crocodiles playing guitar.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I have fun with that stuff. I love creating and producing. I'm into that.
I hear you.
So, and then the other single, Winners Grinners, that was the second single released from Berlin in 2022. So it's been a 3-year release process, basically because we left London. So that release coincided with me putting on a festival in Camden Town, which just bit off more than I could chew. Then we did a leaving gig with a friend's band I played guitar in. So much shit went down. So much happened, and you're leaving, and you're leaving all these good friends you've made and these good contacts, and then we're in Berlin, and we did the Winners Grinners single launch, and we also went on a camping trip around France for 6 weeks. So we shot a lot of that footage there.
That's cool.
So that went well. Yeah, that was lovely, and then there's this really wicked venue in Kreuzberg in West Berlin called Wild at Heart.
Yeah,
and it's just like an institution. It's like had rock bands, punk bands from all over the world, and the owner's husband and wife are just really cool, and they're rock and roll themselves.
That's cool.
And and all Aline's friends, she's a hairdresser, and all her friends came. It's just packed. It was such a good time to go. I mean, obviously it's hard when you leave because you've got all these good people that come out for you, and you go to the other side of the world. So it's been emotional, and I thought, well, I need to get this album out this year. So because I'm studying a master's at the moment, it's so full on. I've never been so inundated with doing reading and essays, but I had a month off, so I thought, well, I'll get this album out now so I can just get it off my chest.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did want to touch base on this because you just kind of mentioned it in passing, but you are studying for like music therapy, right? That's what you're like getting your master's in?
Yeah, that's right.
That's really interesting. And like we were talking about that before the interview, and I was saying how, music is such a powerful thing. It's like I I could go on and on about like how music affects people and affects our brains and all that stuff, but like music therapy, I'm glad like more and more. I mean, it's kind of been around for a little while, but it seems like in the last maybe 10 years, it's really been like getting more noticed and more, kind of accolades towards it being a valued thing, you know?
Totally, man. It's like I think the the knockers, the number crunchers can't deny it. It helps people, and I guess when you're doing it like therapeutically, I guess in a way, like we buy music, we love original music because it is therapy for the people that write it and for the people that receive it. Like, and I suppose the industry sells that, and that's why people will pack out, all the great stars and they're inspirational. But I think the good thing for me, because we all know that the music business is not for the faint of heart. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
and,
totally.
It's a tough old game at times, and can be, pretty demoralizing for people if you've, but we got to stick to what we do. We got to stick to our guns, and it's creation. And so you put up with all the shit to be able to get on stage or whatever. But when you're doing the therapeutic thing, there isn't all that exploitation going on.
Exactly.
So you're actually,
it's almost more of a pure form.
That's exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. That's right. So you go into an aged care facility and you give people this, this love of music, and then they're responding. So they don't always, but when they do, it's very heartwarming. And
totally.
And people in compromised positions, like, whether even if they're in a prison, I've done a few prisons, but not many. Maybe I'll do a bit more, but I've done many psychiatric wards, and they're living quite bleak existences sometimes. And you go in there and you play an hour set for them and get them involved, and it means the world, and it lasts. It gives them something for maybe a few days, if not weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I was saying to you before, like the interview, I was like, I don't remember what book exactly I was reading, but it was talking about there are these five points in the brain, and music is the only thing that touches all five of those points. Like, that's how powerful music is to the human brain. It's crazy what you were talking about people with dementia, where you can play certain songs and like they're gonna remember those songs because they're tucked away in a part of the brain that like doesn't get touched by the dementia.
That's right. Right.
It's just so crazy.
It is. It's like, what's your name, mate? Well, I don't know, but can you play "Fly Me to the Moon"?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, who are you? I don't know, but play me this song. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
and they know all the words, and they can sing all the words.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's so. And I would argue, like, not, I don't know if there's anything that like proves this or shows this, but I would imagine like those people that, say they have dementia, but you play the song and they know it, right? They're singing, they're clapping their hand or whatever. There's gotta be memories tied to that song that they're tapping into.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because even for you and I, like, there's got to be song. Like, I know there's songs for me. Like, the second the song comes on, I mean, songs are like time machines. So like the second I can hear one song, it's like, oh, I can smell, a certain thing. I can remember being at a certain place. You know what I'm saying? Like, what we tie those memories to certain songs. So I gotta imagine, people with dementia, when you hit that part of their brain, like, even if they're not vocally saying things or whatever, that you got to be tapping into some memories that they can remember, like from those songs.
Absolutely. And that the other thing is, like, usually I notice after half an hour, all the cognition improves.
Totally.
And sometimes but you're just having normal conversations, and that's very special. And that, so it's just that morale boost. And then as you say, you're engaging so much part of the brain, and it's physical as well, because you're singing, and
absolutely.
It's like, and then all of a sudden people start remembering stuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really important. And creativity, art, music, it's magic. It's magic, so at times. And I think
it really is that universal language too, like we were saying, like you like almost regardless of whatever language you speak or whatever physical spot that you're in or mental spot that you're in, music can just cut through all of that.
That's right.
So
that's right.
It's so powerful. So yeah, so it's cool. So it's really cool that you're getting into that. What kind of brought you down that path? Like, is there anything that kind of caught your eye or something, like an article or whatever? Like, what made you kind of be like, hey, maybe I should get into music therapy? Because it's not an average normal thing as of just yet. It's starting to kind of be. So it's just interesting that you wanted to go down that road.
Well, I think, like, when you do things in your life, and then you like, I studied counseling, and then I did music degree, and then eventually you keep going forth and exploring, and then you fall into stuff. And I think working with that background of experience, and then working in aged care, mental health, psychiatric wards, learning disabilities, it's like, well, it's therapeutic music. So, and I thought, well, I'll get back to Australia, because in England sometimes people ask me to do music therapy, so I would, sort of use my therapeutic skills with music in my own way.
Yeah.
In Australia, it's very strict, so you have to do the masters.
I see.
So, and it's fair enough, actually, and I get it. So I thought, well, also I'll come back to Australia and I do this masters, take it further, what I already know and my experience, and learn more and inform what I've already learned. So
absolutely.
And actually the other good thing is, like, I can do it during the day. So as a working musician,
right. You're not going to be doing music therapy at 2 a.m, loading up out of the back of the stage into your car to go home.
No, or on a Friday night when everyone's watching sport and putting their money down the fruit machines. This is a thing here in Australia at the moment, and there's sort of like, you're playing covers, no one gives a shit, you get your money. There's a couple of gigs like that.
I hear.
And some, I love playing covers and I love playing my favorite songs. Obviously I'm more passionate about my originals, like most people would be.
Yeah.
But it's, in order to make a living, if you're not doing it during the day, you have to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday night.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing of it. What I did in London is I did this stuff during the day, and then I chose to do my originals on the weekend, maybe once or twice a month.
Yeah.
It
gives you that flexibility. You don't feel like you're like, oh crap, I have to play these shows just because I got to get some money coming in or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's it. And like, I also play in a wedding band. It's quite high up, but that hijacks your Saturday, the whole day.
I hear you. Yeah.
And actually you have to prepare. So it's like a day or two before that, learning the tunes.
Right, you have to learn all the songs. Exactly.
Yeah. So, it's, so that this whole thing about, it's rewarding, it's helping people. It's, as we say, music, and it's therapeutic, the therapeutic aspects of music in its purest form, and that's what we're trying to do. And then so that's it's hard doing the study at the moment. It's a bit of a shock, and I'm still adjusting to it, but it would be good in a year or so when I've got my degree and then I'm out there being a therapist.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Dion, I don't mean to cut this interview short, but I have another appointment coming up here soon. So to wrap up the podcast, one of the questions that I like to ask everyone when ending the podcast is, like, what advice would you give to like new musicians coming out, especially this day and age? Like, someone starting to learn a guitar or a piano, whatever instrument, like any advice you'd have to give to that person about like starting a band or, starting to get to write their own music, like any advice for the up and coming musician?
Yeah. Don't worry about the destination. Just do it. Like, do your thing and do it with love, and do it because that's what you do. Like, be creative, make the best stuff you can. Don't worry about making it. And actually, a lot of the people that did make it, they weren't so asked about that, They just so got picked up on it, people. So don't worry about that stuff. Just make good music, you know.
Yeah, because
don't
honestly,
spend too much time on social.
Yeah, because honestly, if you write good music, everything else would kind of follows along, you know, like.
Yeah, if it's meant to be, but like,
exactly.
you know, get your soul out there, and don't, you know, the other stuff is quite dangerous. It can be dangerous, you know, and also just keep your ego in check, you know, like we gotta keep it real, you know. We're just like doing music. Even if you're really good at it, doesn't mean you're better than anyone else, you know.
I hear you.
Like, as I said, I met Paul McCartney. His feet were right on the ground, so.
That's a great way to put that. I appreciate. That's awesome.
Yeah. So awesome. just do it with love and be good to people. You know, we're there to bring people together and sort of you know, we bring the community together. So even your local gig, you're doing something good.
Exactly.
You know, by organizing and investing in it, and you know, and keep supporting it, and support other bands. I think we're a bit too divided these days, but
yeah, totally.
I think bands need to get behind each other as well.
Exactly. No, I agree with that 100%. So with that being said, Dion, thanks for coming on, and everyone check out Palumbo. There's going to be links in the show notes that go to everything, and there might even be some stuff embedded on the post of this episode. So check out Palumbo. And Dion, thanks so much for your time and coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jonathan. It'd be good to keep in touch with you, man.
Absolutely, dude.
Really
absolutely
enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, no, for sure.
All right.
And everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, and don't forget to embrace your storm.
Tornado with Jonathan Nadeau. If you haven't yet, please subscribe now so you're first to hear new episodes with more stories of inspiration about the highs and lows of life and how embracing the storm is so much more fulfilling of a life than being crushed by the weight of the world. And until then, we hope you're inspired to do something, whether it's creating, participating, or learning, whatever leads you to your personal passion.